Inter-President Jack. So, as most of you probably know, I used to work abroad, not from here clearly, for the UN and the Red Cross. And I first came across the issue of human trafficking in Liberia in 2005, when we discovered that parents who had given their children up to orphanages, basically to have them looked after during the war, because the orphanages were able to attract funding, were able to care for their children, were finding that when they went to go and get their children had been adopted abroad. Often, the adoptive parents not knowing that these children had real parents, often thinking they were doing a great thing and they were adopting these children, whereas in fact, certain unscrupulous agencies were changing their names, forging their identities, and trying to get them taken out of the country. So we blew the whistle on that, and with UNICEF and others. Fast forward, I arrived in this country in 3 years ago, and I signed up to be a guardian ad litem, which I highly recommend. I mean, it's a volunteer program that we run here, where volunteers are assigned children who are in the foster care system for reasons of abuse, abandonment, and neglect. And one of my assigned cases was a girl who had been trafficked. She was in a vulnerable position, her parents were estranged, and she had been trafficked across state lines. And my job was to try and help within the system that we have to care for her. So it's something that's very close to my heart, which is why I'm really delighted to be introducing Katie Parchment today to talk about human trafficking. And I first met Katie because I'm going to make a little plug for her daughter Jasmine, who is 14 years old and runs a business called The Bakery Boutique, and she will come and make cupcakes and cater your event, highly recommended, because that is where I first met Katie, was with her daughter selling cupcakes at an event. So Katie is a graduate of A&M. She's currently studying a master's at SEU in International Community Development. She has over 10 years in child welfare. She started off as a child protective investigator, which has to be one of the toughest jobs in child welfare that I can think of. That is the job where you are going into the home and you're removing a child. And you can imagine the emotion that is going on in that situation. So these are children that have been trafficked or have suffered from abuse, abandonment, and neglect. Katie was then an investigation supervisor, and she's now the child welfare trainer at Heartland for Children. She's also a founding member of the Human Trafficking Task Force. So she is committed to this issue, and she's going to explain to you a little bit more about what she does and what the task force does and why this is an issue right here in our backyard.
Shorter than you, so I'm gonna push that. Good. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I wish I had the portable mic because I like to move around a little bit, but. Thank you.
Much like civil service, all your work was free.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that introduction. And she's right, I have worked in child welfare for quite some time, and I am very happy to be here. Thank you for being here today, because this is an issue that does affect our community. And so I know I have a little bit of time, but I want to kind of let you guys know what human trafficking is, what we're doing at Heartland for Children to combat it, and what you guys could do to spread awareness on an issue that really is taking place right here in Polk County. So we'll start off by really going into what is human trafficking. And I'll tell you what the Florida statute says it is. Human trafficking means that we're transporting, soliciting, recruiting, harboring, or providing, enticing, maintaining, or obtaining another person for the purpose of exploitation of that person. If it's sex trafficking and the child is under the age of 18 or the person, you do not need to prove that there's been forced, fraud, or coercion used in the trafficking. And so that's one of the issues that we find here. Obviously, I work with children, so that's going to be the focus of today's presentation, because that is the population which we work a lot with. But this does affect adults as well. And so today we're going to touch on two aspects of human trafficking. One of the two of the acronyms that we use is domestic minor sex trafficking. And so you may hear that now and then. And that means that that person is either a U.S. citizen or is legally in the United States. And so when you hear that term, that means that it's one of those people. Also, you may hear CSEC, and that's one of the terminologies that we use a lot in child welfare to identify somebody who is being commercially, sexually exploited. And so we might say this is a CSEC survivor, CSEC victim, but it is something that happens right here as well. So let's take a closer look. I'm gonna first talk to you guys a little bit about labor trafficking. Yes, that happens here too. Human trafficking has many different components of it. How many people have seen the movie Taken? Okay, so Taken happens right here in our backyard. All right, so first we're gonna talk about labor trafficking. And when we talk about labor trafficking, we're talking about people having to work for little or no pay, having their ID and other personal papers taken away from them, them being sometimes physically abused, them being forced to not have any communication with their families. Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of these cases. One of the cases that is affecting our youth is the traveling sales crews. Anybody ever see those kids in the parking lot saying, hey, can you buy this trinket for me, this candy bar for $8? You're like, $8 for a candy bar? But these kids are kind of forced to do that. And what we've been finding is we're fortunate enough to work and have good relationships with the FBI, Homeland Security, local law enforcement, and a lot of FDLE. And so they've come in and done presentations and informed us of what they're seeing across the state. And one of the things that we see with these traveling sales crews is that they will actually recruit kids from the parents' home in front of the parents and say, hey, you know, I know little Johnny's going through some problems at school and has gotten suspended a term or two, and I run a mentoring program. And I would love to have little Johnny come with me on the weekends, and we'll teach him about entrepreneurship and how to run a business. And they'll take little Johnny and they'll bring him to a different county, and they'll have little Johnny out there all day selling these little trinkets. And they may get a Happy Meal at the end of the day. They may get some water, but that comes out of whatever little money they make. Now, all these scholarship dollars that they promise the parents and the mentoring, the kids never see it. And so that's one of the problems that we've seen across the state is that they will pop up, they will get shut down, and they'll pop up under another name on Sunbiz, claiming to be a mentoring program. And so while the parents are like, oh, my kids are in this positive program, they don't realize that they'll bring them over here, bring them to Orlando, bring them to Tampa, and have them in Target parking lot, knocking on people's doors, selling magazine subscriptions, and for hours and hours. And of course, we know we have child labor laws, right? And so that's one of the issues that we're seeing. And obviously what they try to do is move the kid away from their hometown and have them go to a neighboring town, because why? If I'm in Walmart parking lot trying to sell an $8 candy bar and grandma pops up and says, what are you doing in the parking lot? Then it's harder for me to kind of continue working all day. If grandma pops up in the Walmart parking lot in Tampa and I happen to live in Lakeland, then the likelihood of that happening is a little bit less. And so we see that they're very strategic in what they do when they come to labor trafficking. Another thing that we see with labor trafficking is people who sometimes work agriculture, domestic servitudes. There's a lot of different aspects of labor trafficking that is right underneath our nose. We see people who bring family members or bring other people from their home countries over here to work as nannies, and they never get paid. They never see the day of light. They work right here and live right here in our nice communities, and you don't realize that they're being forced to do the things that they do. And so that's one of the issues that we, even as child welfare professionals, also investigate any allegations having to do with a child working unjustly. All right, the next big component of human trafficking is sex trafficking. I know, this is a big one. And so just so we understand what we're talking about and who this affects, the people who could be trafficked are males and females. And when I do this presentation at the jail with the kids, or at their release programs at the Arts courthouse, a lot of the boys are like, man, that doesn't affect me. That don't have anything to do with me. And I'm like, yeah, it does. Traffickers don't care. They will definitely take a male and they'll take a female, they'll take whoever they think they can control, and they will groom that person until they're ready to get what they need from them. And so we have children who are also part of the child welfare system are more vulnerable. A trafficker is very skilled in identifying children who they think don't have the proper attention at home, who they think are being neglected, and they will take advantage of that situation and groom that child, okay? We also see gangs using this as a means of income. And so if you want to be a part of our gang, young lady, we need you to make some money for us. And so sometimes it's initiation, and sometimes that's their role in the gang, is to be trafficked. Kids who experience abuse or neglect, or who have been exposed to substance misuse, chronic runaways, that is a huge one. We have protocols in place for when children who are in our system run away, where if they're under a certain age, they must immediately start doing things, contacting law enforcement, because within 48 hours of that child being on runaway status, there's been somebody who's approached them to try and traffic them. And so we see that as a major issue, and one of the things that traffickers look for, that kid who's always running away. Kids who have DJJ, Department of Juvenile Justice involvement, traffickers look at that too and say, oh, you're used to breaking the rules. Let me go ahead and use you to break these rules too. And so those kids are vulnerable as well. Again, U.S. citizens, immigrants, kids who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, questioning, transgender, does not matter. They are also vulnerable to being trafficked. Now you may say, well, it's only the shy kid who doesn't really have good self-esteem who's trafficked. Nope. The trafficker wants that girl or that guy who is popular, who is cute, who knows all the fun people and all the fun places to go to, because they know they can make money off of them as well. And so it doesn't matter if you're an introvert, if you're one of those very fun and popular kids, a trafficker will go to anybody they would like. So let's quickly go over how they recruit the kids. They'll go to hot spots like schools, the malls, skating rinks, parking lots where kids hang out after a game, sporting events. Major sporting events is a major hub for traffickers. Super Bowl time, Final Four, all of those sporting events, traffickers take that as a time to really make money, okay? One of the other things that traffickers use these days is what? Internet, smartphones. Our kids have the world at their fingertips. And sometimes they don't realize that traffickers are right there to get them whenever they are able to log into one of these websites. And so the traffickers will use social media, they'll use all the little apps that the kids use, they'll use the little secret apps as well, and they'll start to traffic the kids by just being their friend. And when I do this with the kids, I'm like, how many friends do you have? Oh, I got 1,000 friends, I got 500 friends. How many friends do you actually know? Like, you actually know this person. Oh, about 20 of them. Exactly, because that's what the trafficker is hoping for. That you will post something, that you will open the door to them saying, oh, I got it in. Let me go here and direct message this person and try to become a friend with them. And so they will use all these methods to lure the child in, and then they'll develop the trust. They'll be their best friend. They'll be that boyfriend. They'll be that girlfriend. They will be the one who will buy them anything they need. And once they develop that trust, then what happens? Payback. Hey, remember those Nikes I bought you? I need you to do me a favor. Or if you really love me, like you say that you love me, you'll do this for me. Or hey, you've been sleeping on my couch and hanging out here for about a week and a half now. That costs. What are you gonna do to make it up for me? And so before they know it, they're in a situation where they're being trafficked. And they're like, how did I even get here? That's what the traffickers count on. Now, this isn't just like a 4-week plan. Week 1, we're gonna do this. Week 2, we're gonna do this. Some traffickers don't care. They'll take a year. I know one trafficker who groomed a young lady for about 3 years. Best friend. Every time she broke away with her boyfriend, he was the one right there for her to lean on and cry on his shoulders. And then when the opportunity presented itself, it was payback time, okay? Human trafficking is modern day slavery. We have more people enslaved around the world right now than any other time in history, okay? The federal government actually produces a report called the TIP report, the Trafficking Persons Report, where they identify all the countries and the efforts that they're making to combat trafficking. Because every country is saying, oh no, we don't agree with trafficking, but what's your level of involvement in stopping it? And so we see some countries where they have a lot of different things in place, and we have to see other countries where they still regard some populations as slaves. They refer to certain people in their country as slaves. They have judges signing off on trade agreements to give ownership of one slave to another slave. So are you really combating it like you say you are? So if I would advise you to go on that, the state Department website and look up that report because it's really insightful about what's going on around the world, because it is modern day slavery. So why do people do this? What do we say? Follow the what? Follow the money. This is a lucrative business. It's about 29 million people worldwide who are enslaved right now, and they make between 32 to about 35 now billion dollars. That's what a B, guys, $1 billion. So if we're looking at behind arms trafficking and drug trafficking, this is the most lucrative field. And a lot of traffickers like this because, hey, if I'm walking through an airport with a young lady who has drugs in her stomach and balloons, she's sweating bullets, she's looking nervous, you know, they're afraid to go through security because they don't want the x-ray to show that they have the drugs in their stomach, then it's a little bit more risky. Once they sell that drug, then they may get their $20, they may get their $40, and then that's the end of it. Now imagine walking through the same airport with a young lady on your arm who you're trafficking. Oh, no, she looks sad because our parents just died. Oh, no, she's not smiling because she doesn't feel well. And so they will continue to walk with this young lady through the airport. No one's knowing the difference that this person is being trafficked. But it's up to us to kind of have that keen eye of, why is she dressed like that and he's dressed like this? Why is it that every time somebody asks her a question, he answers? Why is it that I'm getting a gut feeling that something isn't right here? And so that's what we need to start being able to identify, those situations where we see that something's not right here. Then with these traffickers, once they get these young ladies and young men, and they are able to sell them out to one John, which is the term used for people who solicit, then they're able to sell it to the next person, the next person, the next person, and go back the next day and do it 10 more times. And so they are getting money on that same material, that same person, over and over again. And so that's why it's so lucrative for them. Now with awareness, there has been increased penalties. And the federal government and state government and local government is really doing a lot of efforts, especially on local law enforcement, to really combat this. And so there has been a lot of changes in the last 10 years since I've been involved in this field. All right, I want to show you guys really quickly this map of Florida. You see all the red? Those are our hot spots. What do we know? It's South Florida, right? Hot spot. We have the ports. We have people coming in from different countries that are nearby. Central Florida, what do we have? The I-4 corridor, easy access. We had one trafficker who was out of Polk County, actually out of Lakeland, who he loved being in Central Florida because if somebody called him from Miami and said, hey, I need 10 girls today, he could get them there in a couple hours. Same day somebody calls him from Jacksonville and said, hey, I need a couple girls, he could get them there quickly. And so being in a central location gives him the opportunity to really supply what his buyers need quickly. And so that's why we see that this area is very busy. All right? Here are the intakes. In 2009, DCF added a human trafficking maltreatment to Florida Abuse Hotline. And so anyone can call in actually right now and report human trafficking. It does not have to be an actual caregiver/parent. It could be an unknown person. It could be that pimp who's down the street. If you can see over the years, in 2009, there was 43 reports. By 2017, we had 1,700 reports. Okay. For Polk County, last year we had 63 calls in with the maltreatment allegations of human trafficking. Out of those 63, 24 of them were verified. That means that we know concrete that this person was being trafficked. 24 last year. Then we have, out of those 63, 4 of them was not substantiated. That means that we know something happened, but we don't have enough evidence to say, yeah, we know for sure it happened. And then we have 35 that were no indicators. So thank God for the 35. Because that means that somebody called in with some concerns, but through investigations and through information collection, they realized that it wasn't anything going on. Now that doesn't mean that we just leave those girls there and keep it moving. We do implement services for those young ladies to prevent them from getting into the verified category. Pimps, families, and young men and women traffic. Are traffickers. And so we have those pimps. We have Mr. Romeo, who's super sweet, who's like, baby, 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 I love you so much, baby. But then at the same time, I need you to do this for me. And then we have a gorilla pimp who's gonna beat them down, who's gonna show them who's in charge. They actually have something called a pimp circle, where they get a bunch of pimps together and just beat the victim over and over again, just to show them who's in charge. And then we have familial. That's where our moms and dads are like, hey, We need our rent paid. I need my drug money. I need some extra money for my hair, my nails. I need whatever I need, so I need you to go ahead and sleep with whoever I need you to sleep with. And unfortunately, we see parents do that. Then we have survival, and a lot of survival traffickers there are referred to as renegades. And the reason why they fall into these categories, and especially a lot of kids who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, questioning, transgender, is because they get kicked out of the home. Not in my house, and so they end up on the street. A trafficker notices that and says, come stay with me for a little bit. I got you. And they stay there for a while, and then it's payback. Remember? You've been sleeping on my couch and eating up all my food. I need you to do me a favor if you want to stay here. And so as a means of survival, do I rather be on the street or in this person's house, they will start engaging in trafficking. But no matter how much a young lady or young man may like it and say, hey, I get paid for it, I don't mind it, it is still against the law, especially if they're under the age of 18. Okay? And so we always tell them that. A couple of different examples. A nightclub owner providing shelter and food for minors in exchange for exotic dancing, trafficking. Gangs, trafficking. 15-year-old who's like, hey, I like having sex, I'm gonna do it for money, trafficking. Because those Johns know better. This is from the mind of a pimp. Once you step into that world, you have given up who you are for what I want you to be. This is what a pimp actually said. So if you like your hair long and blonde and pretty, and I want it short and red and spiky, that's what it's gonna be. So you no longer have free will. How can we help? If you are out there and you have that gut feeling that something isn't right here, then you may need to engage that person if it's safe, or you may need to call the abuse hotline, call law enforcement, call somebody to say, I don't know, this young lady in my church, all of a sudden, I know she's in foster care, or I know she's in a single parent home, I know her mom's struggling, and she has new phones, new nails, new hair, and I'm not sure how she's getting this money. I asked her, and she can't tell me a good reason how she's getting the money. Or this young lady at my school, or my friend, my daughter's friend, whatever it might be. That's what we need to do, is if we see something, we need to speak up, okay? So contact 1-800-96-ABUSE, which is the Florida Abuse Hotline. Educate somebody about the importance of internet safety. I have these papers up here for you guys, where whenever I do this presentation, I tell kids about being smart. And it's an acronym for internet safety. That door is wide open when kids are online, and predators know it. We've had the privilege of going out with Polk County Sheriff Department on some of their stings, and we've seen it happen within minutes of us being online in a chat room. Somebody is in there saying, hey, how are you? Oh, you're so cute. Can you send me your personal information? And so we need to educate kids about being smart. All that glitters is not gold. If somebody is telling you a dream, that means that you need to check into it. I tell the case managers, trust but verify, because everything is not as it is. And so if you have concerns, somebody calling your phone every minute or texting you, then you need to tell an adult. And when I did this presentation at my kids' school, some of the kids came up to me a couple weeks later and was like, somebody was calling my phone and I had to tell my mom. I'm like, yes, perfect, tell your mom. Tell anybody you trust as an adult, okay? Also, you guys can help by being a mentor to a child. By becoming a foster parent. Right now, we need quality foster parents. We need people who are going to stand in the gap for parents who are not able to. And so those are one of the things that we're looking for. Sometimes it's that coach who says, how are you doing today? I noticed that you seem down. How did you get to school? Did you eat something today? And when we have those communication and those relationships with those kids, you may make a world of difference for that child. And so just keep those things in mind, please. All right, I think that's my time. Is it? Oh, perfect. Good. So let me ask you guys a quick question. When I show you this young lady's picture, because I want to leave you with this one story, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Yell out for me. Sad? Sad eyes. What else? What's that? She needs to eat. She needs to eat. She's pretty. What else? Blank stare. Okay? So that's Shelby. I'm going to tell you about Shelby in a minute. What about this young man? When I show you his picture, what comes to mind? Angry. What else? Sad. Dejected. All right. So I'll tell you guys about them in a minute. But first I want to tell you about a young lady named Angel. I'm sorry, Hope. Her name is Hope. Hope was 14, and Hope was a straight A student, involved in little activities at school, doing really well in school, living at home with her mother and her sister. But you know, Hope is 14. So what comes with 14-year-olds? Attitude and a PhD because they know everything, right? Trust me, I have a 14-year-old. And so Hope is at home with her mom, and mom says, hey, Hope, I need you to go ahead and wash those dishes today. And she's like, oh, okay, I'll get to it. A couple minutes later, Hope, go ahead and wash the dishes. It's time to wash the dishes. I'll get to it in a minute, Mom. And finally, Hope, Mom goes, hey, listen, dishes now. Well, Hope stomps off to her room. I hate her. Ugh, she gets on my nerves. And she jumps on what? Social media. What does she type on social media? What somebody yelled it out over here.
I hate my mom.
I hate my mom. Oh, it didn't come up. But she typed up, I hate my mom. 4 words. And so with Hope saying, I hate my mom, somebody immediately jumped online and said, hey girl, don't worry about it. Come hang out with me for a little bit. You could come at my apartment, we could chill, you could drink, we could smoke, we could do whatever you want to do at my apartment. So Shelby inboxed her immediately. Within 45 minutes of her going online and putting, I hate my mom, straight A student Hope was in her car headed to her apartment. She got to her apartment, which happened to be, extended stay motel. And she's like, oh, okay. Oh, I guess we're gonna hang out here, that's fine. And Mr. William is there. And so she comes in and she goes, hey, Hope, nice to meet you. I need you to go ahead and get on dress because we gotta take these pictures. I don't know, you were just making 2 seconds ago. Yeah, I don't really care what you say, you need to get on dress now. And she said, no, I'm not getting on dress. He goes, punches her in her face, knocks her out, and throws her in the closet. Hope wakes up tied to a bed, completely naked, with a needle in her arm. Remember, straight A student Hope, who just went online and put, I hate my mom? And so from that day, and for 3 weeks, and this originated in Texas, by the way, but within those 3 weeks of her being trafficked, she was taken to 8 different states, including where? Florida. And she was made to sleep with a minimum of 13 men a day. No, weekends are not off. We need you to work on the weekends also. So we're talking about 7 days a week, 30 men a day, and she was never allowed to be alone. 14-year-old Hope, straight A student, living at home with her mom, who went online and put 4 words. How quickly a trafficker will identify that and run with it. So please, if you guys have any questions, I would love to answer your questions now, but these are the kind of cases that we see all the time. And with awareness, we want kids to know that we cannot trust everybody who's out there. Remember Hope's story. For her, she said she no longer has a childhood. How could she? Eventually, they drove her back to Texas because her mom notified law enforcement and everybody else and dropped her off in a hotel and kept it moving. And they were eventually caught. He was given 20 years, and I believe Shelby was given a lighter sentence because of what? She had been with him, she was 20, Shelby. She had been with him since she was 15. So what was she at one point? She was trafficked herself. She was a victim herself. And so now we have the victim now victimizing. They call them the bottom. That's when the girl has become promoted to kind of like an HR, director of HR. And so they go in and they start promoting other girls or try to recruit other young ladies and young men. Okay? Do you have any questions?
So how do we stop the Johns? And what do they do to them if they find them?
You know what? We have a very special sheriff here that will put them on blast in a second. Yeah, but they have different programs throughout the country, actually. I know certain areas even have something what they call a John School, where they have to go in and learn about different trafficking and different programs and try to rehabilitate themselves into understanding that this is not okay. And not every John that goes out there for prostitution is actually purposely looking for a child. There's some that are not. But we know that there's some who are specifically looking for kids. And when they realize it's a child, they are very happy. And so it's a hard thing, because how can we control it? The oldest thing going on in life, right? But we have to be able to be vigilant and say, not my kid, not my community, and not my kids' friends. Because sometimes it's not our kids. Sometimes it's the kids who they hang out with that we need to say, hey, come over here, come talk to me for a second. Any other questions?
Thank you again for the speech. Wonderful and so educational. I've got several questions, but I'll try to focus just on this.
Use my.
Give us some tools. Please give us some tools that we can use when we have either a visual or a sense or an intuition feeling versus, I had this happen in school, I had to wait a year before I could get child help. I'm no longer teaching, but we do see it from time to time when we're here, we're traveling. Tell us the tools to use to help the child.
One of the best tools you have is your engagement skills. And sometimes it's just having a conversation. And a lot of times it's just listening, y'all. Sometimes those kids are sitting in your back of your classroom, or we're transporting them as case managers and CPIs, and they're sitting in the back of the car, and they're telling you, oh my gosh, my friend is, and da-da-da-da. And they give us so much information. When we actually listen to a child, they can tell us what's going on with them. And a lot of times we may need to say, listen, I love that you're speaking and you have all these friends, but tell me a little bit about them. Tell me about what your goals are. Sometimes it's just pouring life into a child that is able for you to be able to help them not get into that life. If you have concerns that a child is in that life, then find out as much details as you can without making them know that you're asking all those details because you're going to follow with law enforcement. Because once you call into law enforcement and you call into abuse hotline, I need you guys to use the same terminology that the child uses. So if they say Big Mike with the goals, then you need to say Big Mike. If they say certain things, they call certain body parts certain names, you need to use the same names. We don't need you to be politically correct, because a lot of times we need to put the pieces together. If another young lady called in with the same allegation, similar story, then now the law enforcement could put them together and say, hold up, this sounds like there's a ring going on here. So please, sometimes it's being vigilant, engaging the child, and then following through with the next steps.
Is there an average age of the victims that they look for?
So we've seen kids as young as 11 and 12 being trafficked, all the way up to adults. We had one case when I was at DCF where it was two girls who were online, met this guy on Facebook, and he started, they met him in Tampa, he kicked them out after having sex with them. They were on the side of the street dancing, and somebody rolled up on them and said, hey, I'll give you a ride, and he started trafficking them. They were 11. And so they don't care. One of the things that we do also, is we have these book bags that we provide to young ladies and young men when we do recover them, when we go out in the field. Because guys, think about it, when they're out there and they're being trafficked, they have on certain clothes, they have on makeup, and so if we're out there and we recover anybody, then we have these book bags with toiletries in there, change of clothes, brushes, and on the side of it, it has the National Human Trafficking Hotline number, and then it gives you the size, and a lot of times there's a little note in there saying that you are worthy. And so we try to let those kids know that as well. Even though you're going through this, you are not your current circumstances, and you are worthy, and there are people out there who care about you. You're not a throwaway child. So I thank you guys for your time. If you have any questions after, I'll be
Katie, and thank you so much. It's clearly becoming an epidemic, and I know, having gone to the International Convention in Atlanta, that it's something that's on Rotary's radar to start trying to work against globally. So we appreciate you bringing all this information, and I hope you'll accept this as a small token of our appreciation.